2015. Join us as we check out the pointy end of hair fashion. Find out why haute couture is in trouble and celebrate the supreme style of Diana Ross. No one tailors an American suit quite like Ralph Lauren. The designer with the brilliant business brain has been styling his classic line since the late 60s, when he opened a necktie store that stocked his popular wide ties. Even early in his career, Lauren showed that he had the courage of his convictions. When iconic department store Bloomingdale's said they would only sell his ties if his name was removed and the ties were narrowed, Lauren refused. However, it was Bloomingdale's that later came back cap in hand when Lauren's ties proved bestsellers. Lauren followed his success with a menswear collection that evoked a preppy, privileged lifestyle. Next came women's wear, based on the strong, classic lines of men's tailoring. On the cuff of the women's suit in 1972 was an insignia of a polo player that went on to become one of the most recognized fashion labels in history. Lauren had decided that the elite sport of polo perfectly symbolized the aspirational lifestyle he wanted to portray through his clothing. The stylish, short-sleeved mesh polo shirts he released next had the insignia on their pocket and became instant classics. Lauren also gained attention for his lavish lifestyle at no fewer than 5 homes, ranging from a Colorado ranch to a Jamaican mansion. Despite being considered a fashion leader, Lauren himself sees his designs as more enduring. "I'm not a fashion person, I'm anti-fashion," he once said. "I have never been influenced by it. I'm interested in longevity, timelessness, style, not fashion." The beautiful wardrobe he created for the 1974 film The Great Gatsby can attest to that. As enigmatic millionaire Jay Gatsby, Robert Redford lounged around in perfectly tailored Lauren suits that recreated the Roaring Twenties, but would have appeared perfectly at home in a 1970s drawing room. In Lauren's world of Ivy League colleges and debutante balls, the clothing is always crisp and refined. When Armani muscled in on his turf in the 80s and upstaged him with the power suit, Lauren returned fire with an impeccable clothing line of beautifully cut suits in luxurious fabrics for the office worker who wanted to distinguish him or herself from the crowd. Lauren has always been the perfect ambassador for his products, aging gracefully and embracing an active all-American lifestyle. Now one of the richest men in the world, thanks to his billion-dollar fashion empire, the designer indulges in a love of classic automobiles. His car collection ranges from a 1929 Bentley, of which Jay Gatsby would have approved, to a rare 1938 Bugatti and a 1962 Ferrari. But what's Lauren's most treasured possession? His little dog, Bikini. With his expressive sculptured face, piercing blue eyes and laid-back confidence, Paul Newman shot to stardom in the 1950s, playing enigmatic men who hustled for a living, but still retained a sense of integrity. Newman learned early on in his screen career that less is more on the big screen, and he used the subtlest of expressions to convey passion or sadness. In The Long Hot Summer, all it took was a curve of his lips and a knowing glint in his eye to win Joanne Woodward. Newman and Woodward were as well matched on screen as they were in real life. The couple married in 1958 and went on to have one of the most enduring unions in Hollywood. which only ended with his death in 2008. Not content to be just a movie star, Newman built a food empire based on his famous salad dressing, with all proceeds going to charity. He was also a keen motor racer, finishing second at Le Mans in 1974 and becoming the oldest driver in a winning team in 1995's 24 Hours of Daytona. One of Hollywood's great gentlemen, Newman's legacy is enduring, and his work will never be forgotten. With sales of more than 100 million records, there's no doubt that Diana Ross reigns supreme in the music world. But the young Diana Ross actually aspired to a career in fashion design, acquiring design and seamstress skills from Cass Technical High School in Detroit. As a 15-year-old, Ross's career took an unexpected turn, and she joined girl group The Primettes. After singer Betty McGlown was replaced by Barbara Martin, the group was renamed The Supremes and signed to Motown Records. Teenager Ross was still at school, putting her dress design skills to good use, as she was voted Best Dressed Girl in her senior year. But a glittering stage career beckoned. With the departure of Martin in 1962, the Supremes became a trio and had their first #1 hit, Where Did Our Love Go?, with Ross as lead singer. 12 #1 hits later, the renamed Diana Ross and the Supremes was the most successful American vocal group in history. The time was ripe for Ross to launch her solo career, which she did in fine style, reaching the top of the charts with Ain't No Mountain High Enough, which was also nominated for a Grammy. Ross proved her versatility in 1972 with a stunning performance as Billie Holiday in the film Lady Sings the Blues. She also designed the clothes for her role in the 1975 movie Mahogany. Unfortunately, her role as Dorothy in a reimagined Wizard of Oz musical called The Wiz was less successful, and her screen career was put on hold for a few years. But Ross has continued to chalk up musical successes, and she's also a frequent visitor to fashion shows and a spokeswoman for MAC Cosmetics. As a fashion icon, she has often spoken of her desire to launch her own label. Hair today, gone tomorrow. Nothing tells the story of fashion eras more eloquently than hairstyles. Throughout history, close-cropped or long and lustrous, elaborately coiffed or dreadlocked, hair has represented privilege, status, and liberation. Men's hairstyles have varied widely through the ages, from the ultra-short tresses of Greek and Roman times to the indulgent curls of Jacobean England. Today's men have even more choices.
The beautiful thing about men's grooming now is that it's all about versatility. I mean, if you look at the images that I've produced for Brill Cream, it's across the board. There's short looks, textured looks, straighter, slightly longer looks. So, you know, there's something for everybody. And I think basically, you know, once a woman, you know, feels that their partner or their boyfriend is actually making that effort with their look, then I think they've got more of a chance. It makes them far more kind of attractive. And guys are just far more aware of their appearance now. You know, it's an important factor. It's the world we live in. You know, image is very important, whether you're, you know, 16 or 60.
Women's hairstyles have changed even more markedly, often linked to other social changes. In the 1920s, liberated flapper women ditched their demure Edwardian curls for modern bobs. These days, women can go short or long and still remain completely fashionable.
The short hair for the spring and summer, it's always a really good thing because, you know, it's the time of the year where the woman wants to be really totally free and not have to be bothered with hair. They want to have a healthier hair, so it's really a good time to actually cut it. The first thing you look at is, definitely the color. So I think, if you have a really nice short haircut, but you don't have the color goes with it, there's something missing. Right now we're going back to single process. When you're blonde, you're really blonde. You're not really in between. You don't have all these little highlights. So you really want to make a kind of a wiggy kind of, a very heavy, thick kind of texture. You have some short pieces on the underneath, longer on the top, so it has a kind of this kind of romantic rock and roll punk, and I think that's what it makes the whole haircut very interesting and modern. And also what is important to look at is also the features. It's very important to choose the right feature to go with the haircut. There is some women who actually cannot really wear maybe so short, so maybe a short bob will be better, or a longer bang. So you have to really adapt to the person and the personality of you have in your chair.
Not everyone wants to go short.
I would never think about cutting my hair short. I look like a boy. I look like a 13-year-old boy when I cut my hair. I could never. I could never.
I would definitely not have short hair because I have really curly hair, and when it's short, it's just a bad style on me.
I think short hair gives you more personality, but I prefer long hair. It's more feminine, more beautiful for a woman.
On the catwalks of Japan, hair is always a big deal. At the annual hair colouring splash, 8 Japanese hair colorists and designers from Tokyo's top hair salons present their latest hair colour styles mixed with the latest in Japanese fashion. Once, Japanese men and women would never have dared to go to work or school with obviously coloured hair. Today, no one thinks twice about changing their hair colour to unnatural shades.
以前はちょっとお堅いお仕事、例えば、銀行関係の方とか学校の先生とっていうのはヘアカラーされるとちょっとなんかお堅い仕事の方はされなかったんですけど、最近ではそういうお堅いお仕事、公務員であるとか銀行の方とか、いう方もヘアカラーされるのがある一定基準内で OK っていうこともできましたので。
But does it even matter what colour you choose, as long as your hair is healthy and attractive?
For me, you've just got to look after yourself, right? So your hair is part of you, so you've got to look after it.
So just enjoy the fun and frivolity of fashion's most ephemeral feature, the hairstyle. Is the perfect tailoring and unparalleled quality of haute couture a dying art? This is the issue troubling fashion insiders as they observe a market that derives most of its income from mass sales of perfumes and accessories, rather than one-of-a-kind couture garments. With just a few hundred clients worldwide for outfits costing $10,000 and above, only top brands like Christian Dior, Chanel, Lacroix or Valentino can still afford million-pound catwalk shows. And those shows are mainly to increase ready-to-wear brand recognition. In the past, Paris haute couture houses provided entire wardrobes for princesses and movie stars. Haute couture is seen as the engine of fashion, developing styles and techniques that keep the industry moving forward. The couture fashion shows attract an audience of fashion watchers, from magazine editors to other designers, who are always on the lookout for the newest trends. Sydney Toledano, president and CEO of Christian Dior, denies that haute couture is in crisis and says that the big houses are doing extremely well.
Haute couture is not in crisis. I mean, I read that in the press. I'm really shocked because the big haute couture houses like Dior, Chanel, Jean-Paul Gaultier, and Lacroix have been doing extremely well. even the figures, the development of the business has been growing on the last 2 years, and 2003 has been a good year for the haute couture, in spite of the dollar, the weakness of the dollar, in spite of the war in Iraq, in spite of everything, the business has been growing. And if you see the success of the shows of this week, frankly, somebody was asking, is haute couture going to die? I would like to die like that.
He says haute couture has a special place in fashion.
I think people are looking for excellence. You know, sometimes the global economy and the global marketing are presenting products which are not so exciting, we must say. And I think people are looking for dream. So we help dreaming. And it's not only a dream, it's an effect on our business. And the growth of Dior for the last 6 years is showing that we were right, investing in this haute couture in terms of the development of the savoir-faire, the know-how, and the impact on the image, which is the best advertising campaign a house of luxury can dream.
At an extraordinary meeting of the Fédération Française de la Couture, high fashion's ruling body, members discussed the possibility of surrounding the remaining couture houses with appropriate partners in jewellery, shoemaking, fragrance, and even handmade chocolates.
It's a tactical strategy. It's more tactical. If we are only few houses continuing and investing in a big presentation, and this will continue again for Chanel, for Dior, and we think that we could associate more luxury houses coming from either fine jewelry or leather goods, but people using workshops, I mean, handwork, okay, which is a little bit exceptional in France, in Paris. And so that the press, people visiting Paris at the moment of the Haute Couture Week, could also attend presentation of very exclusive products.
However, French designer Julien Fourny, for the House of Tarente, admits that haute couture is in crisis and that several jobs will be affected.
Je pense qu'il y a une crise, mais c'est une crise dans tout le luxe, hein, ça va toucher plusieurs corps de métier. C'est vrai que dans certaines maisons, il y a certaines maisons qui ferment hein, tout doucement, c'est très très malheureux. Moi qui suis défenseur de la haute couture, pour moi ça me touche beaucoup.
Predictions of the death of haute couture have been swirling since the retirement of legendary designer Yves Saint Laurent in 2002. But France is reluctant to cut off life support for an industry it considers vital to its culture. Instead, it's looking at relaxing the rules and helping couture evolve into the future. Since shopgirl Maria Vernette Worth first showed off one of her husband Charles Worth's couture gowns to potential customers in 1852, models have been an integral part of the fashion industry. Following Maria's daring display, all the French fashion houses employ beautiful and shapely young women to show off their beautiful gowns in the best possible light. The first models did their own hair and makeup and generally looked like their clients. However, the modelling world underwent a revolution after the Second World War, when Christian Dior introduced the new look, an extravagant response to the austerity of wartime rationing. Dior hired tall, willowy beauties with tiny waists to model his elegant designs, and the top photographers of the day captured their images for magazines. Like the clothes Dior designed, photographs by such luminaries as Richard Avedon and Cecil Beaton became works of art in themselves. Hollywood was a huge influence, with designers hired to dress both the stars and their characters. And many of Hollywood's great actresses, such as Grace Kelly and Lauren Bacall, were first discovered modelling on the covers of magazines. As fashion moved forward in the 1960s, a new generation of models took to the catwalk. Designers like Mary Quant created short skirts and comfortable shoes, more appropriate for athletic, energetic girls like Twiggy, Jean Shrimpton, and Penelope Tree. These models strode confidently onto the runway, displacing earlier modelling ideals who had epitomized elegance and refinement. The modern model had sex appeal and pizzazz, and for the first time, models were celebrities in their own right. They even sparked headlines, with Jean Shrimpton causing a stir when she visited Australia's Melbourne Cup in 1965, dressed in an above-the-knee miniskirt and no stockings, hat or gloves. Melbourne's establishment was scandalised. However, young women of the time were delighted. The 70s saw statuesque all-American beauties like Lauren Hutton and Jerry Hall enter the industry. Designers were well aware of the value they brought to their brand. A good model can advance fashion 10 years, Yves Saint Laurent once said. The following decade heralded the rise of the supermodel. Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista, Elle Macpherson, Claudia Schiffer and Naomi Campbell became as celebrated as the designers they modelled for. These intimidating beauties towered over the catwalk and made power suits, bubble skirts and stratospheric salaries popular 80s aspirations. Evangelista commented that she and her fellow supermodels didn't wake up for less than $10,000 a day. But the fashion wheel turned, as fashion is wont to do, and designers cut costs in the frugal 90s by ditching their household names and choosing smaller, more malleable, younger and most importantly, cheaper models. Just a few names rose above the fray. Among them Kate Moss, a gammon waif who unexpectedly became a star. Rather than just modelling clothes, today's clothes horses are seen as role models and a reflection of society's obsessions. Thus, the use of barely pubescent girls has come under the spotlight, along with the high incidence of eating disorders in the modelling profession. Fashion weeks and designers have been forced to put standards in place regulating everything from age to body mass index in an attempt to show that they're acting on the concerns. Hopefully, the modelling industry will continue to thrive, but with a greater sense of responsibility.